Hello and welcome, Glenn.
Thank you, brother, for the invite.
No worries. Today we have our brother here, Glenn, from Jesus Miracles Crusade Australia, and he would like to impart on all of us some wisdom about evangelising. The first thing I want to ask you, Glenn, is how did you get started?
Well, I've been saved for 40 years. In that journey, I've learned a lot. Obviously, that's why I can sit here and answer some of your questions. But since we're talking about Aboriginal works, I'll tell you how I got started there, because that's probably the more important thing. So about 7 years ago, I actually prayed for a man that was crippled in a wheelchair in a church, and he stood up and he walked. And that was it was my first person that was crippled that got up, and I went, wow, God, did that just happen?
Wow.
And so I became friends with him.
Yeah.
And one day he looked at me and said, you know what, I feel God's saying that you should go out to the Aboriginal community. So he set it up, and I went out, and of course you would have experienced things like they get very angry. So when I first went out there, I didn't want to be there because it was very frightening. I wasn't scared of the adults. I was scared of the 3-year-old kids, because they had clubs that they'd made up, and they used to swing it at you see. But you see, the thing is, what you got to realise with Aboriginal people, it's a testing. It's a testing.
Yeah.
They want to see how long you're going to last going to their communities. They're going to want to see how much you love and care for them.
Like how much you're willing to commit.
How much you're willing to commit. Now, and the thing is, a lot of them will do things deliberately to frighten you, because they want to see how much, I'm going to use the word guts, how much guts you've got to hang around. You know what I mean? So it's very daunting to start with. And there's several things I need to talk to you about, especially with Aboriginal people. We're dealing with a high power.
Yeah.
We're dealing with what's called the Dreamtime Spirit. Now, it's a very, very powerful spirit. You might say, well, what's the difference between that than any other spirits? But I can tell you that, you know how you hear the saying, they point the bone?
Yes, I've heard that.
A lot of people think that that's not true. It's very real. Now, and so they have all these things which is witchcraft, and see what a lot of the elders are trying to do are get all the people your age group under, and they take them a place called Mount Greenville, and they take them up to show them where their roots started from, and they start calling up their ancestral spirits. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people that are angry. And the young generation are angry because of how it supposedly have started out, with them being here on Earth. But you see, I've discovered ways of settling them down. Doesn't always work. But one of the things I say to you guys is you're going to experience, if you're talking to Aboriginals and they look you straight in the eye and they do this, you need to turn around and walk away straight away. No ifs, no buts or maybes. Because you know what that's doing? They're starting to do what's called their corroboree dance, and it's calling up their demonic power. Now, I'm saying this because the fellow I had in ministry with me prior to this, he didn't listen to the elders, and when you're on a community, if the elder speaks and you don't do what the elder says, you'll never get back in that community ever again. So it's important to listen to what the elders say. On this particular day, we were down at a place called Tinga, and we had a manifestation of a very bad demonic spirit coming through. He was only about 20. And so he did that. He eyeballed them and he began dancing. And the elders said, the elders said, turn around, walk. Don't look them in the eyes. But what did this guy do? He said, well, I know better than them, so I'll just keep looking them in the eye. Within 2 hours, he became violently ill with scurvy. Wow. He had the cold, the flu, a whole lot of other things. And that was 5 or 6 years ago. And even now, to this day, it used to be my friend. I worked with him for 35 years. He turned on me, and that evil spirit of dementia's hit him and all sorts of things. So I'm saying, if ever you're out there and you see them stamping, you must remember, turn around and walk away. So this is how I've got started with this. So the mission I go to now, I could take any one of you down to that mission now. As soon as they meet you, they'd give you a big hug and a kiss and say, you're our brother.
Wow, praise God.
That's because I've been there for so many years. But if you were to go in there by yourself, you wouldn't make it. You wouldn't get halfway. You wouldn't get into the community, because your names actually have to be put on what's called the Aboriginal Council Register. Mm-hmm. And then you're allowed there whenever you want to go. So that's how I got started.
I've done a study on a subject called the blood covenant.
Yeah.
And a lot of the tribes in Africa, unless you make a blood covenant with the chief of their tribe, they won't accept you into the tribe. But once you make that covenant, they'll give everything that's theirs yours. Yeah. Is that a similar kind of thing that happened?
It's similar, but we don't have. See, with Aboriginal people, you don't have to do that. Yeah. Once they know you, once they trust you, they love you for life. And once you learn their language, and I was saying to John earlier, they'll use words like, hey, you're deadly, bro, or hey, bro, how you going? Yeah. And so what they're saying is they're expecting us to talk like them. So when you're out ministering, well, how you going, bro? You all right? You know? And I'll go, oh, because I know that language. Yeah. And when you refer to the gospel, say, hey, we want to tell you something deadly. We want to speak to you about something that's really deadly. And that's the gospel of Jesus, because it's deadly. Because that's the word they use. You see what I'm saying? So you start using these words, they're going to say, hey, they know something about our culture. See, so it mightn't stop them from getting angry at the time, but each time they meet you, say, how you going, brah? Yeah. Do you want me to tell you again about that deadly gospel? Because you're using their words. Does that make sense? So by using your words, you're actually breaking down those things that afflict them, because they want to see how far you're going to go to come across to reach them. Now, I can't say on camera how I reach them, because it's not nice, but sometimes you have to... let's just say that when I went there, I had a group of about 10, and pitch black, you can imagine, community, 20 minutes from town, no street lights, no nothing. So when you're driving, it's pitch black, and John's going to experience this probably in the next couple of weeks, right? Pitch black, and all of a sudden this you'll just see one light and a community, and say, what on earth's that? And it's pretty daunting when you first go into an Aboriginal community, because you absolutely don't know what to expect. So, so what had happened was, all the young kids said, hey, brah, you want to come into town with us and meet us in such and such? And this place they wanted to meet us, it's pitch black on the side of the road. Yeah. And there's only 2 of us, and there's about 8 of them. And we go, oh, Lord. Oh, no, what's going to happen? What do we do? But you see, we said, all right, Lord, if we're going to reach these guys, we need to do this. And we'll just begin to pray. So we went out, and we met them on the side of the road, and they just wanted to have fun with us. I can't say on camera, I'll tell you guys later off camera. Yeah. But we followed their little game, and they loved us. So they want to see what we're going to do as far as learning about the culture. So if you start going in and saying, hey, bro, how you going? Are you good? You having a good day? you know, you look really deadly in those clothes, brother. You look so deadly. You know, and the other thing is that if they get angry, I was telling John, there's ways to diffuse it. It doesn't always work, but there's many ways to diffuse it. So if they're yelling or screaming at me, I look for an entry point, talking about evangelism. And I do that with everyone anyway. So if I had an Aboriginal guy, because some of them come in your face, am I right?
Yeah.
They come right in your face. Just step back a bit and just say, hey, bro, can I ask you a question? Come on, calm down. And so what I'm doing is I'm steering them away from the gospel.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing is bringing it back and talking about them.
Yeah.
So what I've done. Reason for that is because when you're talking about them, look, he's forgotten about.
You're breaking down those walls.
So you're breaking down the walls. So I'll say, so brother, you ever been married? Oh yeah, and I'll say, so why are you so angry? Oh, because of this. Oh, okay. So I let them talk for about 10, 15 minutes. And then I say, oh, brother, that's deadly. That's deadly. You're deadly too, brother, but hey, you know what? I want to tell you, I want to tell you about somebody that's really deadly that can fix that problem for you.
Yeah.
You see, because you've calmed him down, and then you say you're trying to talk his language. And as I said, it doesn't always work, but you'll find in most cases, you put the attention back on them. And
it's a bit like when you go into the doctor's office as well. The doctor just doesn't start telling you, this is what you need to do. You need to tell the doctor first what's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm kind of feeling here, that you've got to wait for them to speak what's wrong and then give them the antidote.
So sometimes when we're ministering to Aboriginal people or New Nations people, there's several things you can do. And the things I do now is, quite often, I won't even speak the gospel to them. Because I'd rather make friends with them first, get them to know me, you know, and just take interest in what they're doing. If they mention drugs and that, of course, you know, you back off from that, because they'll try to get you into, oh, come on, bros, come and have a cone with us, you know. So of course you got to stay away from that.
Yeah.
But I'm simply saying, put it on them, put it on their family.
Yeah.
So have you got any siblings? Oh, okay, that's good. What's the difference in that? Because you see, Aboriginal families are really close. So you're talking about their brothers or their sisters, they're going to love you talking about their siblings. They're going to love you taking interest. And eventually, what will happen is you'll be talking to them one day and they'll say, hey, uncle, how are you? And you go, what? And as soon as they call you uncle, you know what that means?
Family.
That means they've now got respect for you. So as soon as they start calling you uncle, you know you're getting through. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Wow, very good. So what are your plans for the future now? Can you tell us some exciting things that you got on?
Well, I've got lots of things to do. Didn't know how I was going to do it, but obviously John's joined the group now, so that'll be interesting. That helps me. Yeah. So I've got lots to do. I've got to go. I've just been invited to Alice Springs, to the Aboriginal community there. Wow. And if you guys want to know a bit, I've got a Zoom link that you guys should come on, meet the Aboriginal people, and meet the pastor. It's all prophetic, and they'll excite you.
Awesome.
And I mean the difference between Aboriginal people to Australian people, because I don't know about Vietnamese culture, but I imagine Vietnamese culture would be a lot like the Aboriginal culture, is the respect that the children have for the adults. The community I go to, there's no respect at all, because the parents are usually drinking and they stay up all night and they sleep all day, so the kids are fend for themselves. In Aboriginal culture, you've got to understand that they're illiterate. Most of them cannot read or write. Yeah. Because the Australian government has said we can't force them to go to school like the Australian kids. Yeah. So if they don't go to school, they're allowed to walk the streets. And in the mission that I'm going to take John to, which is probably I've set up already, there's only one school and it's a preschool.
Wow.
There's no other schools. So once they do preschool, that's it.
Wow.
They just wander the streets. In town there are schools and some Aboriginal children go, but you'll find that the ones in the missions, because the government, it's very sad. The government, and John will take photos and that and show you, but when you see it, you'll cry because the government isolate the communities. So we'll go into town, but the actual mission's 20 minutes out of town, in amongst the trees. You wouldn't even know it was there. And that's how the Australian government are treating them. But once again, with doing Aboriginal work, you have to keep your eyes on them all the time. Because if you upset one and they're reaching down, they're picking up a bone or a stick, you just simply stand up and just walk away.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because you might say, yeah, but we're Christians and we have the power and the authority. Yeah, we do. But until you know how they work and until you know how that demon is, it can even overpower me. So we have to be careful how we handle it. So it's like a snake spirit, and it's called the Dreamtime spirit.
All right, Glenn, well, we might leave it at that. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
If you've got any questions, or if you want to get the link to the Zoom meeting and hear about the testimonies from the Aboriginals, please leave a comment below or message Glenn himself. And we thank you very much for your time and watching us. All right, I hope you have a great night. Good night.